And welcome back. There's been a 25% decrease in the mid-festive road fatalities compared to the same time last year. Despite this, the Transport Ministry has expressed concern. Ayanda Allie-Paine is the Transport Department's national spokesperson, and she joins us now on the line. Good evening, Ayanda, and welcome to The Full View. Starting off, of course, with this announcement that there has been a 25% reduction. Do we know why that is the case?
Thank you so much for having us, Algin. It's a huge pleasure to chat to you this evening, and hello to your viewers as well. Well, we can attribute the 25% decrease to a number of interventions. First and foremost, the leadership of Minister Mbalula. Minister came into this department, you'll know, 6 months ago, give or take a few days. And one of 3 things is what he did. Firstly, he said we need to make sure that we increase visibility. There's a tendency among our motorists to think that, after midnight, of course, there are not going to be any roadblocks. Or when it's raining, there's not going to be any roadblocks. Or maybe the wee hours of the morning. And he was adamant that we need to disrupt that. If we're going to create a culture of road safety, people must know all the time that there is an eye watching, big brother, as it were. The people must know that even when they need help, for example, help may be just around the corner because there's such increased visibility. But secondly, also to make sure that we inculcate a culture of road safety. So what he did was to go to wherever people gather en masse. Makufe, we had one of the largest roadblocks of its kind there at the festival. We went to the Vodacom Durban July because, people are going to have a good time. They're going to socialize, and the likelihood of people, driving under the influence of much higher at these social gatherings, and we'll continue doing that well into 2020, going to rugby matches and the like. But he said that it's important that we begin to create a culture of safety. So over and above that, we saw law enforcement officials really rally behind him, not only traffic officials, RTMC, RTIA. We saw South African Police Services really support this ministry, and also Home Affairs, SARS, you name it. She said, we will also come and help with these multidisciplinary roadblocks. So that's another thing, police officers sacrificing their time to make sure that they're on the ground. But thirdly, we can't discount road users. There are many people who have come to the minister to thank him for the intervention. Many law-abiding South Africans, one might add, who have conscientized the element of road safety and are living it. People are posting videos saying, crashes happen, guys, be safe. People are advertising various microbuses and Pumbis and minibus taxis that transport people in large groups from one place to another. So all these factors are what contributed to this 25 decrease that we're seeing.
And speaking about the 489 accidents leading to 589 fatalities, do we know what attributed to this or contributed to these fatalities in a larger scale?
Indeed. Of course, this 25% decrease is welcomed. It's encouraging, but it's not satisfactory. One death is one death too many, Algin. And we are still struggling when it comes to people who drive under the influence of alcohol. We saw a total of 1,397 drivers who were arrested for driving drunk. Speed still remains a problem. 272 people nabbed for driving at excessive speeds. Those two are still problematic, but we're also seeing pedestrians, Algin, and I think this is something that we also need to focus on. People who are jaywalking, possibly because they themselves are drunk, or maybe they're crossing the road with their earphones on and they're listening to loud music and can't hear the vehicles, or just they're not adhering to safer road crossing. Maybe you're crossing the road on a highway. We are still seeing concerning numbers of pedestrians who are becoming victims of road crashes. And so those are some of the tricky areas that we have yet to address, or we have addressed, but we've yet to see a significant enough decrease. And I think this is the importance of preliminary results or midterm statistics. Someone was saying on social media, why are you celebrating? You're only at the halfway mark. But this halfway mark gives us perspective. We're able to see what we need to capitalize on by way of gains and wins and say, okay, this is working, let's improve on that. But we're able to say, okay, here is where the problem area is. How do we address that? How do we tease that out? So these statistics paint a picture of progress, but they still tell us that there's plenty of work to be done.
I have to say that the stats that the minister released on his Twitter account, and I'd encourage our viewers to go and look through those stats as well, is that it's very interesting and probably force us as a country to start having difficult conversations. For instance, the one around the percentage distribution of fatalities per gender, indicating that 70% of the fatalities so far are male, whether male drivers, passengers, whether pedestrians, and then on the other hand you have 26.5% who are female. I wonder whether this tells us anything about the behavior amongst the different genders.
Yeah, I think that was such an interesting find for us. It also was quite revealing to find out that our young people in particular are the ones who are dying on the roads, 20 to 35-year-olds. And, if you can connect that, and of course I'm no anthropologist and I'm no sociologist, but there are interesting questions to be asked there. If you connect also the fact that Saturdays, Sundays and Mondays are the most critical hours, overnight, crucial hours as well. But also, if you also take a look at the fact that those single individual cars, or the small cars with one occupant inside, are also seeing heavy numbers in terms of fatalities. This tells us that perhaps, you have a youngster who's just bought a new car, who's living it up, who's going to show friends or going to do other things, who may just think, I'm just around. What's the worst that could happen? I don't need to put on my seatbelt, or I'm just around the corner from home, a little extra 20 kilometers per hour, let me drive at 100 instead of 80. What's the worst that could happen? It's those small things that we need to attend to. Something I like to call the small foxes that destroy the vine. If we can deal with those kind of issues, we'll be able to really tackle with these things, because honestly, the statistics in South Africa are alarming. They are way too high. And of course, yes, we note the small victories, but we're far from finishing this war.
At a legislative level, Ayanda, do you think there's anything else that government can do to ensure that these road fatalities are curbed? Because if you look at, some people are arguing that probably what should happen is that every time someone goes and renew their license, for instance, that they must go through the test again. They must go through the entire test again before a license is issued to a person who was a learner just yesterday. That person needs assistance. That person needs to be monitored continuously.
Look, there are a number of avenues that we're looking at. There's international benchmarks that are being considered. There are a number of suggestions that could be tested and looked into. But we are also quite excited about the ASTO amendment, because the implementation, when it comes through next year, will have an that should be able to deal decisively with the carnage that we see on our roads. Minister still, of course, underway when it comes to at least the various consultation processes are still underway. He's still consulting and he's still putting together those regulations. The deep merit point system, we're hoping will also deal decisively with it, because if you and I are driving and we misbehave on the road and then you get your points taken away, and the threat of not having a license, which is sometimes tied to your livelihood, may be able to deter drivers from erring on the road. So there are a number of things that we do consider and we look into. We also said that perhaps even lowering the speed limit, and this does not mean that we're going to lower the speed limit, I must hasten to add. But these are things that we consider and we look into and we research, and we also conduct feasibility studies to see whether or not they could work. So there's quite a lot going on legislatively. There's quite a lot going on behind the scenes to make sure that we deal with this. South Africa is by no means and no way relaxed when it comes to the road stats, and even the 25% decrease is welcome, but as I said, it cannot be something that we celebrate. When we look at the figures, 589 people, mothers, children, daughters, husbands, breadwinners, who lost their lives and who have cost the country not only financially but emotionally and otherwise, that can never be something that we will say, we're relaxed and rested about.
Thank you so much. That was Ayanda Allie-Paine, National Spokesperson for the Department of Transport.